Hey,
Howdy, howdy.
that's the longest 10 minutes of my life.
Well, I
My,
figured I'd keep you on your toes.
woo! I was losing them, Ezra. We started out with 80. We're down to 33 now.
Yeah, I was getting a little stage fright. There were so many people, so I'm glad it's less now. I
I
feel
I am
far
so
less
glad you're
pressure.
here. No, I was telling them about what the next webinar was going to be like and why they should absolutely join us next week, April 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern, to watch me do what I did today, which is like, I'm real skittish today for some reason. So, woo! I'm
Well,
glad you're here. I've never been
that's
more glad.
because you thought you were going to have to fill in an hour of conversation about purchasing and receiving. So
I I I would have not been great at that.
awesome. Well, we won't waste any more time, and let's just hop right in. And um, let me just share my screen. So I just want to give everyone an overview of really what the purpose of uh, today's webinar is, which is uh, what we want to look at today is one of the tools that I think is very much underutilized in coreSTORE, which is the buying assistant. The buying assistant actually has a sister tool called the transfer assistant, but we're not really going to jump into that one. I'll probably touch on it a little bit. It's geared more for multi-location customers, so I'll touch on it. But really what we're going to focus on today, and I know there's a lot of customers that have put in tickets because they don't fully understand the tool, and a lot of customers that tend to look at it and just to be transparent, they look at it and think, oh, this is way too much work, or it's too confusing. So today I really wanted to go through and go through basics, right? And some of you that are on here, I know, are probably know much more about purchasing than even I do. Some of you, maybe are new FFL. Some of you maybe, are just used to doing things a certain way. So really, the goal here is just to keep everyone informed and hopefully show you a tool that you can leverage in your business. With that said, every business is different, right? So not all tools are built for all businesses, but it's a tool that's extremely powerful, and we'll just jump into it. But before we do that, one of the things that I do want to cover is, as kind of a preface to this, because they work together and they're tied together. And again, we're going to go back to a little basics. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. Present, share screen. Okay. All right. So I'm actually in our purchasing module. And before we jumped into the buying assistant, I wanted to just talk a little about how our purchasing module works, because sometimes there's some things that aren't necessarily obvious in terms of how our purchasing module works and what the dashboard is. So I went ahead and I've got just the screen up, and again, the way you get to it is just purchasing dashboard. So just to give a little introduction in terms of the purchasing module and what the power is and what it does, right? Because it's not just for purchasing and receiving. Again, if you have multiple locations, this is where you manage all of your transfers. So the idea behind this purchasing module is, this is your central area for receiving your inventory, but also ordering your inventory. And what I want to look at first, before we talk about the buyer assistant, is just the idea of how does our purchase order module work? Because many customers do not enter purchase orders because to them it's extra work. I got a salesperson on the phone. I'm just going, I'm talking to my Sport South salesperson, and they've got some inventory. I'm just going to order it, right? And then it shows up at the door and you receive it, right? And that seems a whole lot easier, right, than actually entering a purchase order into the system. But in order to manage inventory properly, right, because the biggest challenge, and I keep saying this, the biggest challenge for any retailer in any industry, especially hard goods, is making sure that you have the right inventory, right, at the right amounts at the right time, right? That's the whole key. You don't want to be sitting there looking at stale inventory, nor do you want to be looking at empty shelves for products that you could be selling today, right? That's the entire challenge of retail. Your costs of running a retail store, especially in the firearms industry, the tremendous costs of carrying inventory, whether it be firearms, whether it be ammunition, all of that adds up tremendously. So you're always challenged, because if your cash flow is caught up with too much inventory, that is not a good thing, right? You want to make sure that you're spending whatever cash it is on the inventory that you can move. And again, that all goes towards how many times can I turn my inventory a year, right? And inventory turns is another term that's used. And basically that just says, hey, how many times, if I had one item in my store, how many times can I sell it and then buy it and sell it and buy it all throughout the year, right? And that's what you want to try to do, is achieve as many turns as possible, right? Because then you're increasing sales, increasing profitability. And your money's not caught up, stuck in inventory that's just not, maybe it's moving once a year. So the only way to manage that, and again, many of you are far smarter than me, and many of you have many, many more years with retail experience. I'm not here to preach. I'm just here to maybe shed some light on some things. So many of our customers, they're brilliant. They're brilliant retailers. They know in their head, what's moving, what's not. They can look at the store and say, okay, here, I know exactly what I need. I need. So when the salesperson calls, I already know that last week I ordered these things, so I'm not going to order them again. But at the end of the day, our society suffers from, one big ailment, right? And no one can argue this one. It's information overflow, right? Or overload, whatever term you want to use. So we're inundated with information. And the key is you want to try to get everything out of your head that you can, right? Because it becomes really hard to manage, especially when you're dealing with 3,000 SKUs, 4,000 SKUs, 5,000 SKUs in your store, whatever that number, is. Maybe it's a small store and you've got 1,000 SKUs. Still hard to keep up, right, in your head. And therefore, sometimes, even though we're all about, hey, save time, save keystrokes, cut as much time, but sometimes it's worth investing at that time, right? So from a standpoint of being able to properly manage your inventory, purchasing, obviously it all starts with purchasing. That's where the buyer assistant comes in. But really, you don't even need the buyer assistant to start some good practices that will help you really manage inventory better. And that's really starting with a purchase order. And again, it really ends up not being that much more work than just receiving, because, you're entering a purchase order, right? You're selecting your vendor. So let's say I do choose Sport South. I can just go down and select what items, I want to purchase, right? Or I can scan them in, however, which way I order, items, I can look things up. And again, the key is, at this point, I need 3 of these Glocks. Again, this is creating a purchase order that you can then just literally transmit directly to the distributor. Now, this transmit button will only show up if you have, if you are using coreSTORE with CoreForce, because we're leveraging your distributor connections that you have set up in coreSTORE's. And just a little tip that a lot of our customers don't necessarily see this off the bat, but when you're setting up the supplier, and again, I'll just pull up Sport South. When you go to manage that supplier, you'll see there's a drop-down list here, right? That lets you associate the supplier in coreSTORE with the actual distributor that's set up in coreSTORE's. And that's how we know who to transmit that PO to. So the beauty of this, if you're not using our purchase order system, the nice thing is it saves you from having to go on the Sport South website and enter an order there. It saves you from having to contact your salesperson. You can just enter that purchase order and transmit the purchase order right then and there. So that's a huge advantage in terms of entering this purchase order. But I want to show you what happens when I actually create this purchase order, right? So I can transmit it. We're on a demo account. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to save this purchase order, right? So once I save it, your inventory control system is already aware of it. And again, for some of you, this is obvious, but I'm still going back to basics because I think it's important. So, we've got this, Glock Gen 5 that we ordered. We ordered 3 of them. Again, if I pull that item up in my inventory, this is where we actually start seeing some of the effects of what we're doing. And I'll just go to my inventory tab here. And I just chose this randomly, but it actually works out. This is a good item to demonstrate with. So basically, I've got 3, right, that I've ordered. And you'll see here that I've got my quantity on order. And again, that becomes really important because now we know what we're expecting, right? Now, we don't know what date, this is the firearms industry. A lot of times you don't know when you're receiving something unless it's in stock, which again, what I should have done was, immediately check to see if Sport South actually has this item. Again, here's my PO. I can just go edit the PO in case I want to just double check. Again, this magnifying glass, if you've got coreSTORE's, it's a magical tool, and I really should have ordered this not from Sport South because they don't have any, so I should have probably ordered it from Crow or Xander's or Bill Hicks, right? So there's actually a phenomenal example. But at the same time, maybe your Sport South salesperson has 3 set aside for you, so you're still ordering it from them. But again, from an inventory control standpoint, this is great screen here. Again, I know it's obvious, but I can't tell you how many times that I've hit the magnifying glass and really the customer's like, "Oh, Ezra, I didn't know what that did." And we've had some customers that have been using coreSTORE for a long time and they just didn't know. It's not really obvious. It's a small little icon. It's sitting there and they just never thought of clicking it. And again, that magnifying glass is available on the sales screen and on the item screen, right? So it's available in several places where you can check distributor inventory, which is really powerful. Joel, I just want to make sure, because I don't hear you reacting and I'm not looking at you. So I want to make sure I'm broadcasting and I'm loud and clear and I'm not going too quick.
Did you start?
Funny.
All joking aside, there are some questions popping up. So throughout, I'm just going to flash them up there. And then when you get to it, you get to it. And then I'll just keep a question kind of popping up as we go.
Yeah, is anyone online that's monitoring and trying to respond to the chat? And if not, I would encourage you to just get Joshi or Josh Oki or anyone that may be available just to help answer some of these questions. And I definitely can answer some of these questions as we go along.
You got it.
So I see Charles's question. I'm going to show you how to receive the items properly so they update the purchase order, because I think that's another issue that comes up. So we're going to go through this entire purchase order process. So bear with me, because this will lead into also talking about the buyer assistant. So I'm just reading through a couple of quick questions here. Yeah, so I think Kevin Sharp brought up a very valid question, is, making sure that inventory is received against the correct PO. That's always a challenge, Kevin, in any system, especially because different suppliers, some may provide a good packing slip that has your purchase order. Some may not. Some combine, right, purchase orders. In terms of, they'll send you a shipment and it really is from 6 different POs, right? Or more or less. So it gets confusing. So yeah, that is a challenge, Kevin. I'll still go through the receiving process, and, we can discuss that more, but definitely all I can say is I feel your pain. I don't have all the answers when it comes to different suppliers, how they send you shipments. It never hurts to ask the supplier and make sure that their packing slip includes your PO number. What ID? Dan's asking what ID the item is not in stock at the distributor. Dan, I apologize. I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. If you can maybe elaborate. I think you were referring to what's not in stock. So you can click that red button to see which distributors don't have it in stock. And again, this data is coming from coreSTORE's, but coreSTORE's is pulling that data from the distributors. Depending on the distributor, it's different frequencies as far as how often we're updating that. Oh, we got a Gorilla fan. What distributors are capable of receiving POs via API? Excellent question. So the question was, what distributors allow us to transmit POs? I think most of them. I don't know, quite frankly, which ones don't. I believe all of them have the ability for us to transmit an order. To us, when we transmit this order, it's literally as though it's one of your drop ship orders, right? Which it's not drop ship, but my point is it's behaving like we're sending an order to the distributor. Even distributors that don't do drop ship, like Davidson's and Amchar, we're able to transmit an order to them. So it's pretty much every distributor. I don't think there's any that, well, no, maybe there may be a couple, like Cam4 maybe doesn't accept orders. So that's something we can get a list to let you know which distributors you can't transmit orders through, but I really think it's maybe 1 or 2. We are, just so everyone knows, we're up to, I believe, 17 distributors, 18 very soon, meaning end of April, I would think we'll have 18, and I believe 19, 20 will come before the end of next quarter. So by summertime. So CoreAware has the most integrations into distributors, and we keep enhancing and adding more and enhancing the ones that we currently work with. All right, so yeah, Kevin, Sport South loves to combine and mix POs. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're talking about like Sport South. I can speak to, having been there for a small amount of time of nearly 18 years. Running the tech. It's obviously a massive operation. So they do combine POs, but you can request to get specific packing slips, and you can ask your salesperson to make sure that you're getting your PO number on your packing slip. So that's something you should be able to work with them on. All right, so I'm going to continue and keep the questions going, and we are going to see if we can get some more help on the chats, just so we're not leaving everyone hanging, and this way I'm also not missing any questions. All right, so again, I've got a purchase order, shows me the PO number. So one of the big questions is, well, Ezra, we receive items, and we want to make sure it's updating the POs. So when you're receiving items, again, this may be obvious to most of you, but we'll just go ahead and do it. So when you receive items, what you should do first is just indicate who you're receiving them from, right? Because at this point, you can narrow down and you can actually look up whatever POs are open for that specific distributor, right? Or supplier, I should say, sorry. And this is any supplier, right? It could be you're buying Kimber Direct, right? So this could be Kimber in there. But whoever it is, this will give you a list of all of your open purchase orders. And again, when you choose that purchase order, which, I know this PO number 59 is the one I entered, I can very quickly just do one of several things. I can just pull all the items from that purchase order right into the receiving screen. Now, where a lot of customers go, quote unquote, wrong, I don't want to say it's wrong, but it's not the right way to do it, is we have a lot of customers that update the purchase order directly. That's not the way to do it. You need to create a new receiving transaction each time. So you may be asking, well, Ezra, why are you guys allowing it? It's because when we sometimes make a mistake at the beginning, which is what we had, you would receive against the PO. That's how CoreStore worked. People got used to it. If we simply take that feature away, people get mad at us, right? And we're not believe it or not, we're not in the habit of trying to piss off or aggravate any of you.
At all.
Quite to the contrary. So again, I'm not going to remove that functionality, but it is the wrong way to do it. Every time you receive, you should create a new receiving transaction. Super simple. And the beauty is you can pull all the items, right? You can do it two ways. You can say get items, right? Which this gets, in this case, we only had one item. So this gets the item from the PO, puts it on the screen, and I can say, hey, I received one, right? And at this point, of course, I have to put in a serial number because we're going to acquire this. So I'll just make up the serial number. All right, and I'm receiving this one. Now, I could have, again, I'll just cancel this. I could have also said get items and quantities. So again, depending on how you receive, you can do it three ways. You can do a blind receive, meaning, hey, just go ahead and receive these items without first pulling them up, right? I want to scan each item. So in that case, you really want to start with a blank screen and just start scanning. As long as you chose that PO, you can scan the item and bring it up on the screen. But you have two other ways to bring up these items on the screen, right? So you can receive very quickly if you want to. If you eyeball it and you see, hey, they sent me 2 guns, you can just pull all the items and then just update the number of items that you received. So that's entirely up to you how you want to do it. But that's what these 2 buttons do. And we try to determine if the PO is complete, right? So if I receive 3, our system will be, it does see that we received the PO in completion. But here's where it gets, you have to do a little work. If Sport South called and said, hey, we sent you 2, we don't know when we thought we had the 3rd set aside to you, but some other salesperson snagged it. I only have 2 for you, right? So at that point, your PO, you just want to issue a new PO to someone that has it in stock. So you might say, hey, I got 2 of these, and I want to mark this PO as complete, right? Because at this point, I want that purchase order gone. I don't want to have 3 on order. I just want to receive the 2. Meaning instead of having 1 still on order, that simply will receive the 2, and then I have 0 on order at this point. So in this case, again, if I put in a serial number, or the other one I didn't, I deleted the line. So we'll just put in some serial number. And a couple of things also, if you're not using coreSTORE to track your payments to suppliers, you can actually turn this payment section off. So that's, and I'll show you where that's done. In this case, I've got the payments. I'll just go ahead and say, okay, I'm paying by check. I'm mailing a check to them, but that's not a required step. Just so everyone knows. That's just to make it convenient for you. We also integrate into a check writing service that can actually mail a check for you. And I'm not going to veer off into a major tangent, but that's just a little side note. There's another reason why I want to show you the settings, because I want to show you something else as far as the purchase orders are concerned. But what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and complete this purchase order, and I'll hit finish. And again, since I marked it as complete, this will not show as an open purchase order anymore. So now if I go to inventory and I pull this item up, you'll see that I have 2 in stock, which is what we expect. It should have reduced this to 0 because I marked that PO as complete. So I don't know if I did a wrong step, or we'll have to double check that. But that should have eliminated that one from being on order, because again, as soon as you mark that PO as complete, it should say, okay, I'm done with it. So in terms of the couple of settings that I wanted to point out, purchase orders, again, they're important, and a lot of you prefer using your own purchase order numbers because you want to use a date with a combination of maybe a supplier code, something intelligent per se. So you can, when you receive that PO, hey, this is a PO that I maybe enter, I originally had, in February, so you can more easily find it, and I have some special code on it. So you can actually set that up if you go to settings and you go to the purchase order receiving settings. And again, we have a ton of different settings, but the 2 that I just want to point out is use purchase order number and require purchase order number. So this simply means that we're going to use our own purchase order numbers. The next option says, do I require that purchase order number, or do I just want to use it occasionally with certain vendors? The other option that I want to mention is, remember I told you that we couldn't turn something off, but you can. If you want to prevent your users from receiving on the PO, you want them to enter a new receiving, you'll just check that box. And there's some other options, but I think those are the important ones. And also, this is where you would turn off showing the actual payment section. And I think that's further down right here, hide payments from receiving screen. So just like everything else, coreSTORE has a ton of purchasing options. Sometimes it gets confusing with all of our settings, but there truly is reason for what I call the madness, right? It gives you the flexibility of operating your business the way you want to, not the way CoreWare thinks you should. And that's why we always have a lot of different options, right? And there's some, you'll see there's some advanced options as well that relate to the buyer assistant. But we'll look at those in a minute. All right, so we've gone through the purchasing process. I want to make sure that everyone understood the importance of that. Now, the other important setting that I want to really focus on that's important is looking at our reorder and replenishment levels, which is many of you call mins and maxes, right? And maybe we should add parentheses min and a replenishment level, put parentheses max. That's probably would actually be a nice little addition. So, and again, one of the nice things we've added recently, I don't know if you've noticed, is these question mark icons. So there's still something that's, still in progress, but there's a lot more help coming to coreSTORE that will help answer a lot of questions that you may have. So the reorder and a replenishment level, reorder level is basically saying, at what point do I want to trigger a purchase order for this item? And the replenishment level is saying, how much inventory do I want to carry of this item, right? So for this particular Glock 45 Gen 5, again, I'm going to manually say, and I'm just going to say, hey, I want to always keep 4 of these, and I want to reorder, whenever I get 4 or below, right? And I want to keep 6 of these. So in other words, I really feel like, again, you have to use your own formulations in terms of judging, and we've got a tool to help you, and that's the buyer assistant. But at the end of the day, you're going to use your data and then make certain determinations. We're not going to calculate what your reorder replenishment levels should be. We're going to give you tools to help assist you with that. But we can't, there's so many variables, right? And a lot of people like to use the AccuSport example of, they were great because they would auto replenish and I'd get my inventory. But I heard so many complaints about that, and there's got to be a happy medium. You don't want things automatically suddenly appearing at your door, especially when seasonality, politics, all play, just the zombie attacks, the COVIDs of the world. There's so many variables that change what your inventory needs are. You don't want inventory showing up at your doorstep without really knowing up front that this is what's coming, right? It all sounds good. It's a great pipe dream, but at the end of the day, to me, that's a way for a distributor to just keep getting rid of their inventory, right? They get you on the auto replenishment program. Great, right? But if you don't have control over what's showing up at your door, and yeah, you can return it, but we all know what headaches those are, just trying to create returns, and time is money. And so you want to have enough control of your system without it causing you a tremendous amount of work. But at the same time, you want to invest your time in determining what you should be ordering from who, when, and how many. You've got to have that in your control. And yeah, AI is great. All of that's great, right? But at the end of the day, your business best. So we want to give you the tools to help improve that. So your reorder level, and Joel, I'm going to use you to make sure that I'm coming across clear on what that is. But reorder level just says, hey, for this gun, when I get 4 or less, I want to trigger a purchase, and I'm going to purchase up to 6, right? And the key is up to 6. This doesn't mean that we're going to recommend 6 to be purchased, right? It just means that we're going to replenish up to 6. So if I have 2 in stock, right, it should recommend that I'm purchasing 4. So does that make sense, Joel?
Yes.
All right. Are you really paying attention to me, or?
I've got 5 different screens in front of me, but yes.
So really, that's a no.
You've got a fifth of my attention.
All right. Well, a fifth is better than 0. So
which for most people,
I should feel fortunate.
I'm joking.
All right. So let's just keep going here. But so far, is this making sense to you?
Yes.
For real?
For real.
Awesome. Are there any relevant questions that I should stop? And
I'm going back 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, so did you address after receiving a PO and marking completed, can you go back and edit it? Did you address that?
That's a good question. The answer is yes, you can. again, it gets tricky, obviously, with, you know, the firearms, because you've already acquired those, right? They're in your bound book. So, well, I guess the question was on the purchase order itself. I mean, absolutely. So we, by default, we hide completed purchase orders, which is why our purchase order is not showing here, because I marked it as complete. But I can uncheck this box, right? And I can just search all the purchase orders, and here's our one from today. And I can still edit this purchase order, right? But you'll see, I don't know if, hopefully no one's messing with my data, because we only received 2 of these. Oh, it's just defaulting to 3 because I opened it as a receiving transaction. Sorry. So no, you could absolutely edit the PO. You'll see there's 2 received. And you know, if you need to, I don't know, you want to change the quantity here, you can on the purchase order itself. But yeah, make sure you're in the purchase order mode, as opposed to in the receiving mode, because I don't think I disabled the receiving mode. That's why I defaulted to the receiving mode. But the answer is yes, you can edit a purchase order. So one other thing, back to what we were talking about, the settings, before I delve deeper into the reorder points. So now that I turned on that purchase order number, if I do enter a new purchase order, you'll see I've got a field here for entering my own purchase order. So again, if you have some type of code that you want to say, hey, I'm ordering from Sport South, and it's, I don't know, I put the date somehow here and an A, you can put in whatever PO number. It doesn't have to be numeric, but that's where you can put a more quote unquote intelligent number as the PO. And when I print the purchase order out, so if I'm ordering, I don't know, let's order some ammo. Oh, this was I think it's set up as a kit. I never know with our test data what's going on. So I want to order 100 of those. Again, I can just choose, I keep using Sport South, but we'll just do it. And I'll hit save purchase order. So over here, I've got my purchase order number, again, as opposed to the actual numeric ID that's being created. And that's the PO number that should be coming with your on the packing slip that's your supplier provides. Some suppliers don't print your purchase order number, but most of them will, and some of them you just have to ask them to do that. All right, so at this point, one of the good tools that we have, even before the buyer assistant, is we can look at inventory under reports. So if I go to the inventory category of reports, I can choose the first report is what we call a low inventory report. So this is a really powerful report. You can actually look at a specific supplier or category, or look at either all in-stock inventory, what's not in stock, whether to include subcategories. But in this case, I can just say show just items that have a reorder level set. And then I can hit submit. And this will show me any item, right, that has a reorder set. And it will calculate basically what we should order. And again, this is just basically a report, an informational report that you can use. Again, you can export that to Excel. You can use it to create an order if you want to. So that's just one report that's available in the system. And that's just our low inventory report. So that's a good report to run. But to me, you know, that's not really helping me, you know, save time, or really, it's not helping me make decisions, right? So really, that's where the buyer assistant comes in. So yeah, to me, the report, yeah, it's great, but to me, really at this juncture is where we can talk about the buyer assistant and what that does, and why really it's something that's absolutely worthwhile using. So let me jump into the buyer assistant. And actually, before I do that, let me go one step back. So let's go back one more thing that I did want to show. So there is another feature here that it's one of those that I think is, again, unfortunately hidden, not purposely, but it's not obvious. And I assume a lot of our customers may not know it's there. But even if you don't want to use the full buyer assistant, we do have this create purchase order screen. And it's similar to how the buyer assistant is set up, but it's not quite as complex. So I can just choose, and I'll go through the criteria in a second. So what that does is it skips all of the craziness of the buyer assistant and just creates a purchase order based on the criteria that I chose. And in this case, what I did was I didn't choose any criteria other than just create an order for anything that I have at currently that needs to be reordered, right? And I have some various options here. And I'm going to go through those, but really as part of the buyer assistant, because some of these options are pretty much, they mirror the buyer assistant. But this is a simpler way. If you know that, hey, I want to order Glock today, and I just want to create a PO because I know all my Glock I order, from Amchar. It's a great example, right? Order all my Glocks from Amchar. I'm just going to do a quick show me everything that's below the reorder level and create a purchase order. Boom. It just goes through and does that, as long as you have those reorder points set. So this is just again, you have the report that's just informational. You've got this in between, right, that creates a purchase order for you based on whatever criteria you choose. And then the next step up is that buyer assistant. So this create purchase order, just to reemphasize, you can access that right from the receiving screen, right through this ... menu. It's the first option. And you can play with it. It's not creating the PO. It just adds the items, and then you can subtract items, change items, whatever you want to do. And then you can create the PO on this. So you're not, when you hit that button, it's not doing anything. It's not even putting anything on order because we haven't saved this purchase order. All right, so then we come to the buyer assistant. And to me, this is a screen that's totally worth spending time on. And it's worth learning. And I promise it's not as scary as it looks. And, we've thought about trying to simplify it, but I can't think of what information is not relevant on the screen. So the idea of the buyer assistant is, hey, obviously, your store, what you're selling, but at the same time, you've got all these SKUs. So the idea here is help me make my buying decisions. And you're not going to say, hey, out of all my inventory, go show me what I need, right? Because that is an overwhelming amount of information. But maybe today you're purchasing, you want to focus on firearms. Maybe the next day you want to focus on ammo, or maybe you want to look at it by manufacturer, right? Maybe you want to look at it by supplier. Again, for the supplier criteria to work, you would have to assign a supplier to the item itself, which you can do, a default supplier, but most people don't do that. So to me, this one, you're not going to use a whole lot. But manufacturer, I think, is definitely one that a lot of customers could use. Same thing with brand, right? Where, obviously there's a lot of manufacturers that have multiple brands. So some people like purchasing by brand, some people like purchasing by manufacturer. Some people like purchasing by category. Sometimes it depends. For firearms, I purchase by manufacturer, but for ammo, I'm going to, purchase by category. Today I'm going to look at center fire. Tomorrow I'm going to look at shot shells. So again, whatever which way you operate, and again, even if you're not issuing actual POs right now, you have some type of pattern, right, of how you purchase. And if you don't, maybe you want to come up with one, right, that just helps you better manage your inventory and helps you not look at 2,000 items all at once, because you're never going to do that, right? You're never going to succeed if you're looking at thousands of items all at once. So you want to try to narrow the scope down as much as possible. So another way to narrow, that data down so you can easily purchase is really look at your different criteria, in addition to saying, hey, today I'm purchasing ammo, but let's look at, I don't know, all ammo that was sold in the past month, or a custom range, right? So all of these are literally options of what inventory do I want to look at today, right? To help me make the right buying decisions. So I can look at something as simple as, again, my reorder point. Just show me anything that you, coreSTORE, thinks I should be ordering. So I can just review that, right? And I don't have to choose any other criteria. Now, again, the other criteria, I can sort by different, I can literally sort by, in this case, I'll sort by category, right? Because I want to have an organized screen of what the system thinks I need to reorder. You can include suspended sales. That's important if you want to exclude anything that's suspended in terms of looking at those numbers, right? Or you want to make sure that if you have suspended like special orders, that those show up in your buyer assistant. You can also include inactive items. Not really sure why you'd want to do that, but if you're just doing an analysis just to see like sales history, because this screen you can use not just for quote unquote buying, it can also be used to make other decisions, right? And then we also let you include discontinued in this criteria if you want. And then you've got an option to use standard cost versus your average cost, right? If you maintain a standard cost on items, you can do that. So I'll just go ahead and hit review.
I think you were covering it.
Yep.
But can you look at the question? Can you use the create purchase order to search the criteria of suspended transactions that are special orders? You're talking about, I was paying attention and I heard suspended orders, and
you can. Yeah. Yes, you totally can.
Hey, Ryan, I'm trying to take care of you, man. I appreciate you. Ryan's doing an excellent job. He's actually fielding questions for us. A lot of you are.
Oh, cool.
We have some of the best customers out there, man.
That's awesome. So that's not our internal Ryan. This is customer Ryan.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, you didn't let Ryan go yet? I'm just joking with you.
I'm sorry?
Ryan, you didn't let Ryan go yet? Ryan, if you're watching, I'm just joking.
All right. So this is where the screen, gets a little, in a way, daunting, because there's a lot of information here, right? But the idea is this information is being used to help you, make decisions, on what to order. And we have all these, wow, look at all these CoreWear dev shirts that we have. When are we selling CoreWear dev shirts? I'm just looking at all the items here. Okay, so, and I'm just trying to see, and I'm on our test data. I may switch to some other data just to see if we have better and more information. But let me see if I can find the one that I wanted. Did I not choose the right criteria? Because I'm looking for actually our Glock, which should be showing up here. Okay, let me just check the criteria. So this is a good one where I'm not doing anything at this point. I just want to go back and choose my criteria again. Oh, I know what it is. Let me expand it. So this expand all, yeah, that's part of the issue. I forgot. I've got multiple locations here. So again, if you have one location, it's a little easier. If you have multiple locations, we have this expand mode that, literally will show you multiple locations. I only chose the Dallas location, right? So this collapse all and expand all is what will open up the buyer assistant and show you more information, including if you're buying through distribution, what suppliers have these items in stock. So it looks like, again, I have a lot of reorder points of 1. And here, okay, perfect. Here's one that I wanted. This is a Ruger. And let's just talk about this one. Unfortunately, I have no sales data. So again, the joy of using test data. But we might switch and just look at some other data. But real quick, let me just go over and explain this screen. So basically the way the screen works is based on the criteria that you chose on the previous screen. This is just showing you the results of what our system thinks you should order. In this case, it's saying, hey, Ezra, you've got a total quantity of 59, right? Items, meaning total quantity of order. The average cost is $123, and my grand total is $7,282. So what's important here is to note is we haven't created a PO here. This is just giving you information where you can decide if you want to create a purchase order. And the power of this is you can create multiple purchase orders, all from this one screen. Because if you have 15, let's say there's 50 whatever items here, you can go down and start selecting different suppliers for each item. Not only that, you can also just say, hey, I don't want to order any of these. I'm going to change this to 0. I'm going to change this item to 0 because I don't want those. So you'll notice the quantity to order keeps going down, right? So at the end of the day, the recommendations may not be relevant, right? Because maybe this is an item that it was a fluke. It sold a bunch last week and I really don't want to order it again, or it's out of season, right? So therefore, no, hold off. I'm not going to order, I don't know. I'm horrible at these examples, but I don't want to order, shot shells would be a good example when it's, I don't know, not bird season. Maybe I don't want to keep as many in stock. Was that a good example, Joel?
That's a good example, yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure you're paying attention. So, so again, I can go down the screen and I can change what I want the system to order, right? So I can also change it to say order. I really want 2 of these, right? So that's one way to influence what the system is suggesting to order. But what I can also do, which is really powerful, because everyone tells me, Ezra, it takes so long to input my reorder and replenish point. Well, here's the news flash. This is the screen you should be putting it into. And if instead of the criteria that I chose, if I just say, show me all items that sold last week, think about it. If you do that every Sunday from your home, coreSTORE runs on the cloud. If you just do that while you're watching, football or whatever you want, and you just say, hey, show me the items that sold last week, and you quickly run down and make sure that you have your reorder and replenish points set up and also set up to the number that you think is correct, within a few weeks, you'll have your 20% top selling items all covered, right? You'll never get to 100%, nor do you want to. There's items in your inventory you don't want to set reorder points for, right? But if you can cover, again, 80-20 rule, if you can get 20% of your items dialed in to where you've got the correct reorder points and you're reviewing those on a regular basis, it's you now are starting to manage 80% of your inventory value a whole lot better, right? It's a good 80-20 rule. And I'm the worst. I've got this OCD where I hate not doing 100%. Like for me, it's a battle to say, no, I'm just going to do my top items. It's just, again, my personality. I'm like, no, we got to get 100%. But I can assure you that that 20% will improve things tremendously, by 80%, right? That 80-20 rule does work in many, many different situations. It's a valid rule to follow. So let's talk about first how easy it is to change the reorder point. So again, if I decide, hey, you know what, I really want to keep 2 of these in here, and in this case, I don't even have a replenishment point. You don't have to set one, but I just want to say anytime I'm 3 or below, let's go ahead and order. The beauty of setting this is that you'll see that I have 1 on hand, right? That's on hand. And if you just hover your mouse over each one of these fields, it will tell you what it is. So I've got on hand of 1, right? I've got on order, right? On purchase orders, I've got 0. I have committed 2. So committed is what's currently in open orders. So if you think about it, I've got 0 on order, I've got 2 committed, and I've got 1 on hand. If you do quick math, you realize you're -1 in the hole, right? Now, these 2 fields you don't have to worry about, and hopefully we don't show them if you don't have multiple locations defined. I'd have to double check that. But we shouldn't show them because this is what's in transit, and this is what's right now being transferred out versus what's transferred in, right? So if you have multiple stores, we're tracking literally what items are in transit, and therefore you do have to take those into account because they're not in your inventory, but they're in transit from one location to the next. So that's why those fields are there. But again, if you're seeing these and you don't do transfers, you don't have multiple locations, you don't even have to worry about what they mean. But again, I can hover over it and it just tells me what it is. So this is the most important number here. What is available, right? So what's available is what we're going to use to recommend what to order based on your reorder point and replenishment point. So if we do the math, right, we're -1 in the hole. So therefore the system accurately is telling me order 4 because I've got 2 is the criteria of when I trigger an order. So obviously we have -1, so 2 or less. So we say, hey, time to order this item. And my replenishment level is 3. Well, if I'm -1 in the hole, I better order 4. And the beauty is we highlight who has it in stock, which in this case is Xander's, right? So I can very quickly choose Xander's, and we're going to make this automated. Right now you have to actually choose that particular supplier. And in this case, again, my demo data, I don't even have the supplier set up, so I'd have to make sure I have that Xander's set up. But again, you get the idea. For every one of these, I can just choose who to buy from and how many to buy. So again, this part of the screen, very easy. This over here, cost, accession, order, super easy to understand. Does that make sense so far? Is that I'll stop here just in case there's a couple of questions before I keep going on the buyer assistant.
Oh, hang on. Is it possible to filter to a specific product inside the buyer assistant?
Yeah. Excellent question. I can actually search for a specific item right in the item search bar here. So if I don't know, let's see. So I can actually enter a search and it will find any matches here. So here's the Glock that it found. It just scrolled down. I don't think it highlighted it. It would be nice if it highlighted when I do a search. Any other questions?
Not seeing anything pop up.
Okay. So let's talk about the fields and the importance of really all of these fields here. So again, we talked about reorder point and replenishment point. So the next fields are calculated fields based on historical sales, right? And sometimes you may not have that field calculated yet if there's not enough data. And I'm just looking at this core word dev shirt. Again, our data that I'm showing you at the moment is probably all over the place in terms of accuracy. But the idea is if I, again, make sure to expand this. So the idea here is that we're going to show you for each location, again, if you have one location, just be showing, we're going to show you the daily average sales of this item. So in this case, I do have some activity on this particular dev shirt. I sold 15 of them month to date, right? And year to date, I've sold 34. So I'm selling an average of 0.09 is what the calculation comes out to. Based on how far along the year we are. Again, based on that, I can calculate, okay, if I'm selling 0.09 daily, that means every 100 days I'm selling one of these basically, right? So immediately I can start making some decisions based on history of sales, of any particular item that I'm looking at. And the idea is I can quickly identify inventory that's moving quicker because, again, your daily average sales is a really important number, as well as that last receive date, which is that next field. So if I look at, let me just pull up some other data here. So if I look, I can see that for this particular, I don't know, this Black Rifle coffee, right? The last receive date was on February 7th. I don't sell a whole lot of these daily. And then my days in inventory, right, is 48. So probably an item that, I just want to set on a pretty low reorder point. I've sold 2 of them month to date. I've sold 6 of these year to date. I didn't sell it at all last year, so it must be a new product that we're carrying this year. So all of these play an important part in helping you determine what should you set your reorder point and replenishment point to, right? So even if you're using the screen, even if you don't use it to create purchase orders, this screen is so valuable to start looking at some of your sales trends, by category is what I'd recommend, starting with, and setting up your reorder and replenishment points, especially for things like ammunition, right? The last thing you want is you don't want to carry too much ammunition, but you also don't ever want to be caught not having the right caliber at the right time for customers that come literally locally and they're ready to shop, right? So you want to look at all your different categories, figure out which ones are your most profitable categories, and let me focus on those first. Let me really tune in my inventory on those. Let me quickly see, what's my overall movement of items, for a particular item. So again, this is where the screen becomes really, really powerful. All of these, all you have to do is hover over them to see what they mean. Most of them are self-explanatory, but it is such a powerful tool for so many different reasons. Again, not just for purchasing, but for literally managing your inventory. It's a great screen. We just looked at reorder points. Well, again, I can completely go back out and say, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and change the criteria here that I'm looking at. And let me just pull it up again. And let me actually look at, what did I sell this past week, right? And again, I can narrow it down further if I want to. So this button, clear current items in cart, it will make sure to refresh everything. So you have a whole new set of items. If you don't mark that, it will bring up the items that you brought up before plus these. So you'll notice it tells you the current cart, there's 28 items. I'm going to just hit review again. It will clear those items out. And here's all the items that I sold this past week. So again, even if you use the screen just to start setting your reorder and replenishment points, that's a great place to start. Even if you use the screen just to quickly see what suppliers have the item and at what cost, that's a great use for the screen. But what's also powerful is being able to just create purchase orders right from the screen. And that's where it gets, again, really powerful, because once I review this, I can literally choose, okay, here's the supplier that I want to choose for whatever item it is. So, if I want to go ahead and, I don't know, let's just say we're purchasing this item. Looks like camera batteries, and Sanders carries them, but we'll just choose, we're buying these from Davidson's in this case, because they're at Davidson's. So at this point, again, the system will look at everything here. It will probably yell at me that I don't have suppliers selected for a couple of them, or so it immediately tells you, hey, you have some items that don't have a supplier selected. But as soon as you do, right, as soon as you go through this list and choose all your suppliers, it will create a unique purchase order for every single item that you're ordering. Now, that purchase order is not automatically transmitted. So again, we don't like mystery orders going to suppliers. I think we're going to potentially change that. We have some customers are like us, or just there's certain items we want auto ordered based on reorder point. We trust, ourselves. So when we hit the button, if we chose a supplier that you can transmit a PO to, just get it transmitted. And we're all about saving steps. My big thing is I don't like surprise items showing up at someone's door. So we like to say, hey, we'll generate the PO. Please review these purchase orders that we just generated. And, then we'll make sure to, then you can go through each one, make sure you're 100% sure that you want to transmit it, and then you transmit it. So it's a bit of a hop and a skip, but it's a pretty quick hop and skip. Like I said, we're going to give you an option to also transmit them all at the same time, right from the buyer assistant. I'm just always hesitant because I don't want to get yelled at for all these items showed up suddenly at my door. And, obviously you hit the button, but, sometimes we tend to get some input thinking that coreSTORE does things automatically for people, and it doesn't. It's typically driven by someone hitting a button somewhere. All right, so questions.
Is there a way to filter out products that were drop shipped?
Is there a way to filter out products that were drop shipped? The short answer is no. I'm trying to think through. The only way to do that is if you, even if you tagged them, because I don't think you can, maybe would be a good addition if anyone from our staff can write that down, is let you either include or exclude certain tagged items. But if you have that item set up as an actual inventory item and not a service per se, it's going to definitely show that item, and depending on the criteria that you choose, right? If you've got a dropship item that you're not setting reorder points for and you don't carry in your store, in theory, it won't show up. It will show up in your sales if you choose to break down your criteria by sales. But it won't show up if you're choosing a criteria that relates to your reorder points.
Can you quickly explain, and I don't know why Mike wants us to be in a hurry, but can you quickly explain the green bar of the supplier?
The highlight of the supplier is simply highlighting the lowest cost supplier that has it in stock. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, it's not playing favorites or anything. It's right. We don't care who you order from. We don't play distributor favorites. We don't, that's just not what we do. We let and that's the problem with distributor specific auto replenishment programs. It's great, right? And I know a lot of you are loyal to a specific distributor, but at the end of the day, if that loyalty ends up costing you a lot, which we all know, dollars here, dollars there, they're going to add up. Then you want to kind of just double check and make sure, because the nice thing is you're seeing everyone's cost here. I always recommend sign up to as many distributors as you can. It doesn't hurt. You get more choices, you get more inventory availability. And at the end of the day, you may find some gems out there where you were buying a certain box of ammo for $21, but this one distributor has a ton of it and they're trying to get rid of it for $18. And, that's a significant margin play and a significant, obviously, way that you can end up selling more, because those are the deals you want to search for, right? Those are the deals that you can then not only enjoy larger margin, but potentially pass some of that on to some of your customers, and feature those items online.
Kevin evidently has made a hit with some people. It would be awesome if we could click that green bar or any of the bars in that grid to pick that supplier.
I 1,000,000% agree, Joel. I don't want to just make false promises. There's several improvements that we want to work on. That's an easy one. We will deliver that. And I want to make sure you hold my feet to the fire. That's something we can easily do within the next few days.
I'm putting it on the screen right here. So this is here forever. This is happening.
Yes, but if it doesn't happen, it's your fault that you didn't remind me. But again, I'm assuming we have I hope we have a couple of other staff members here.
The other
really?
guys,
wow,
they were just busy. It completely sold me out. Today has been a really nerve-wracking day for me.
I'll tell you why this is so important. This is so important, and we're going to make every employee at CoreWare watch this, because I know that I want to make sure customers don't feel bad that you don't understand it. I know for a fact a lot of our employees don't fully understand, the screen, and they don't understand the power of the screen. And again, it goes far beyond just being able to place orders, because again, reports, right? Reports are so important. If you think about it, this can act as an excellent report of data, because the nice thing is do you notice there's an actual that will export all of this criteria to Excel. So again, my point is even if you don't want to use it all the way, right? You don't want to use it to create orders, or you just want to start using it, or you just need more information at your fingertips. You're on the phone. I don't know, your salesperson's calling you up and they're, trying to sell you on a bunch of items, and you're like, hey, you know what? I need to see quickly, what is my inventory status of this manufacturer and this category of items? It's a great, and I wish I had statistics on this screen. We don't. So I don't know how many of you are using this screen, but I can guarantee that most of our customers are not even touching the screen, which to me, it's like, wow, we made the screen for one of our larger customers that has a full-time buyer. They have a warehouse, they have 4 locations. And when I created the screen, I was so excited about it, because to me, I was like, hey, this isn't for necessarily, this is more helpful for the little guys that don't have a full-time buyer, right? Because very quickly, as an owner, or maybe you're a buyer, but you're also the store manager, right? You don't have a lot of time, so you need information at your fingertips, as quickly as possible. And to me, that's truly what, as you can tell, I get excited over the screen, because it really does hold a lot of power. And absolutely, if you all have input or requests, or Ezra, this is confusing, you can also not just tell us now during the webinar, but reach out to us, reach out to help desk, put it in the feedback module. To me, this is one of these screens that we want to really, really perfect and make it as good as possible. Because at the end of the day, this screen alone should be paying for your core store. And I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, that statement, Joel?
Yeah, absolutely. That made sense.
Because again, at the end of the day, we don't want you to look at coreSTORE as an expense. You need to look at coreSTORE as an investment to help you manage your business better. And that's truly that's my goal, right? Because I know I don't hold anyone to a contract, right? So I know that if our customers can look at coreSTORE as their management tool, not just as their point of sale system. No, every point of sale system can sell a gun, right? Some do it better than others, right? But to me, that's a big yawn. And you can do it at different prices. And again, we offer the best feature set for the absolutely best price. I'm not shy about that. And I'll keep adding features and keep enhancing things and still keep pricing, to where it's fair for everyone, right? But it's also not great to have all these features and customers not using them because maybe we're just overwhelming customers sometimes. So this is why I think these types of webinars are so important, because some of our customers have been with us for a long time and are fully capable. Again, they can get around coreSTORE faster than I can, but it's one of those things they forgot about that's there. Or maybe it's like, nah, Ezra, that we're never going to use that thing. But it's like, no, I think you could. I think everyone should be using these screens. And again, even if it's just for gathering information, it's a perfectly good reason to use it.
Is it possible to add an up and down arrow next to the order number to quickly add or subtract the amount?
That one I'm going to keep on a maybe, not because of not wanting to, but yeah, maybe at least a plus and a minus. So this is the challenge for developers, right? We're fitting a lot of information, on a screen, and we're trying not to have you have to scroll left and right, because that becomes not just super annoying, but also it's not practical, right? Because you're looking at 100 items at once, and you want to be able to quickly go down and do things. But definitely something I'll take a look at to see from a interface standpoint if we can easily do that.
So that is a definite yes, Mike.
I think we have enough room here because, again, the word order is spanning across there. My biggest thing is we can't have it scrolling. Otherwise it becomes, really annoying, and you all would get mad at us. But, even fitting the suppliers, it's all, I hope you all appreciate. And again, I'm not taking any credit because I didn't design the screen, right? So I'm going to brag on it because, Glenn really is the one who designed it. And it was, all I said was, Glenn, here's all the information that we need. And he's like, how the heck am I going to do that, Ezra? And I'm like, I have no idea, but just make sure it doesn't scroll and make sure you can see all the data, all at the same time. So again, this is why we use these abbreviations. It's not to be fancy. It's not to confuse you. It's literally all about screen real estate. And when you have items that are several $1,000s, you got to take that into account. You also don't want to make it too small. But again, I can still zoom and scroll, right, for people like me who refuse to get reading glasses. But again, that's just so everyone understands, even some things that might seem so simple. And it's like, core word, just add a freaking up and, up arrow down or whatever it might be. It's yes, sometimes that's an easy ask, but sometimes it actually complicates things. But that's something we should be able to do.
Another one here. It would be nice to be able to see what we are selling the product for on the screen, not just what we are buying for.
That's a really good suggestion.
Yeah, that is. I'm not really knowledgeable about this, but that makes a whole lot of sense.
It does, and this is the one that I'm sure and Glenn's not here, so I can say it, but he'll probably yell at me on that for that one because he'll be like, "Where, Ezra? what fields can I sacrifice or make, more narrow to fit that on. So yeah, but I do agree.
That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely makes a lot of sense. I think maybe what we could do is actually put it right over in this area, where we're putting the item information.
Right.
So I think that would be a perfect spot to put the selling price. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Would be nice also to be able to edit the selling price too, but
yeah,
these are great questions and great suggestions. I mean, and I love all the questions coming in. And if everyone's finding this type of webinar helpful, useful, interesting, I mean, definitely let us know, because I told the team that, look, I'm willing to get on every couple of weeks and just have kind of an open session on something in coreSTORE, and we'll make it up as we go along, or if you guys have certain requests. But if you are finding this helpful, obviously we'll be recording these, so I know they'll be good for our overall library. But having the interaction with you is always, also to me, it's makes it more exciting, and also we get really good feedback. And not to say and I want to make it clear, a lot of this feedback may already be in our feedback module. We are slowly but surely going to be going through that feedback. I promise you're not going into a black hole. We're not always indicating that we've done something, because a lot of times we'll look at feedback and just do it, and then we don't go back and update that. But all of that in due time, we're getting more and more organized, as we go along. So definitely after this webinar, I mean, just hit that feedback page, or you can put in a ticket. A lot of times if it's just a feature type request, we'll kind of push back and say, hey, throw that in the feedback module. And then for the feedback, make sure everyone upvotes. I mean, if you all agree on someone that put in a feature that says, hey, this should be red and not green, it makes a difference if we see, those features upvoted. And you can just click a button to upvote, and that helps us prioritize. So obviously, bugs priority number 1. Priority 2 is typically driven from if we have new features that, compliance related, or any new type features, that's kind of priority number 2. Priority 3, which falls in with both feature requests as well as features that we've identified internally that we need to expand on or enhance. So that's how we operate. Again, one of the things we have neglected lately, Joel, and I'll blame myself, is the what's new. We've had a lot of new little features and tons of updates, but I think we're a little behind on our what's new. So hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be able to catch up again, and we'll throw in some more videos on some new features. I know I haven't asked you lately, Joel, to publish any short tips, so that's something we'll be improving on.
Anyone else that we didn't get to your questions? I was trying my best to keep up, but some of that stuff was coming in.
Yeah, so just to finish the loop, and again, I've got kind of too many items here, but once you hit generate, again, all it's doing, so imagine this worked, right? All it's doing is it's simply creating purchase orders right here, and you'll see them show up here. These are the 2 that we had done earlier. Because again, I didn't generate because I didn't select all my suppliers. I probably should have prepared a little better for this webinar, but obviously I almost missed the webinar. So I tried at least. But again, there's no difference. You'll see a list of new purchase orders here. You can go to edit, and then you can transmit them one by one, or you can email them. Again, any supplier that's not digitally connected, you can still email, or you can print out the PO. And I hate to say the word fax, but yes, I know some distributors still take faxes, and some suppliers do. I don't recommend it. Email's a whole lot better, but again, you'll be able to go in and actually edit any of those POs. If you want to change the quantity again, if you want to take an item off because you chose the wrong supplier, you can just do that.
I got a question, and it may be stupid. I'm just, again, I don't use this every day, but I was thinking, like, is there, once you send a PO, it's in your system, right? Can you go duplicate a PO and it just create that order all over again, and you can edit it and it just gives it a new number? Like, you routinely order the same things over and over again, and you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to go duplicate this order and then go.
So just pull up the purchase order and hit the clone button.
Nice.
I don't know if you know, Joel, but it's the age of AI, and we finally also figured out how to clone.
That is so cool. Oh, trust me. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. We don't know anything. I'm a clone.
See, that's the Joel, it's your fault that I was late for this webinar, because I really was trying to get my AI avatar to just do the webinar, and it just didn't work. So the AI crap is still buggy. So just letting you know.
It's thank God it's very buggy. Jeez. They're going to have us.
Hey, if I can veer off on a quick tangent, because I'm going to vent a little. So I'm using, and you're literally our AI expert by far. And I say that in serious. I mean, you have delved into AI more than anyone in this company 10 times over. Explain to me, and I think the audience would find this interesting. When I go specifically, I use the DALL-E, the one that creates images.
Right.
So I travel a lot. So I try to send my wife, just cute little memes or something. Explain one thing to me. Why the heck can't the stupid, I know you have to yell at it. You've taught me that, but I'll yell at the stupid thing 10 times and it still won't spell correctly, even though I tell it what to write correctly.
I think here, I'm just going to be honest. The same reason that Sora is not going to be available. Sora, the thing that was putting out the ultra realistic videos. And you're like, oh my gosh, Hollywood is finished. Well, I think Hollywood got to Sora because now you're seeing OpenAI, which is the parent of Sora, come out and say, hey, yeah, this is probably not going to be available for a long time. So they came in and they basically they didn't want to lose any money. So I think maybe like marketers or somebody in DALL-E has a soft spot for marketers, and they're like, you know what, if we do this, we're going to take a whole lot of jobs from people, right? So if they don't need to go out and ask someone to make these graphics with the correct spelling, it's hurting people. Well, the way the free market works is a company, and I don't know what the company's name, but the app is called Ideology. Ideology spells everything perfectly. So someone figured out how to get around the prompt, restrictions within DALL-E or another graphics generation solution. And Ideology is, I think it's ideology.ai maybe. But
you'll have to send it to me because
it's scary. Because you see, how you could always tell that's an AI image because somewhere in there's a letter, the R's backward, whatever, right? And then this Ideology came out, and it's like, man, it's getting harder and harder to tell, what's done by a human and what's done by AI. So that's why I think DALL-E is not. I don't think they're in more of the artsy. They want to. That's their niche, I guess. And they want those marketers to use that service, but I don't think they're trying to replace people that actually have to put copy in there.
So, I'm sure we've lost most of our audience, so I don't mind embarrassing myself. So here's my cute little tiger that ChatGPT created, and I'm sure you notice. I miss you so yo.
That's good.
And literally, I kept arguing with the stupid thing non-stop. It took me about 6 iterations till it actually spelled the word much.
So here's my question, because I don't know how open.
And I know I'm going to be blackmailed with this, like, oh wow, look at Ezra, but whatever.
No,
I'm providing some amusement.
I think it's pretty cool.
Hey, it's happy wife, happy life. 33 plus years, going on 34.
Hey,
so,
if anybody's making fun of you, they need to go shove themselves in a trash can, because that's freaking awesome.
So the wife loves tigers. I'm just trying to create, I just wanted a cute, and it did great. That is a cute little tiger, but literally I got into so many, I kept arguing with it, and I wrote, please write, I miss you so much, or so whatever it was. And then I said, no, try it again. No, you misspelled it. Oh, then it got worse. It got to the point where I literally had to start a whole new conversation. And again, argued with it a bunch more. And at the end of the day, luckily I'm not an artist, because I could have finished the stupid drawing of myself, but
he's painted 15 apples.
Oh my gosh. And I don't get it, Joel. When it's something so straightforward, it's like, okay, here, write this out. And it can't.
It's programmed in. They're doing that on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I know I veered off from purchasing to AI, but I just decided I had to vent. And for those of you who are not aware, we have a great webinar series on using AI for a business. And I promise your experience won't always be like my experience. Joel is the one who actually presents our AI series of webinars. And I think before I got here, Joel, you were talking about it. I think we have an upcoming webinar, right? AI webinar.
We do. Hey, and that app is called Ideagram. I'm sorry. I'm thinking ideology. Okay. That's what's going to tear us apart. No, it's called Ideagram. Yeah, and I told everybody at the very beginning, our next webinar is going to be pretty cool. I'm going to use, and what I was going to tell you, Ezra, ChatGPT reads, it can look at images. So I wonder what would happen if you uploaded it with maybe marked out.
It's disastrous. It's disastrous. Okay. It's worse. Yeah, because here's the other complaint I have. And yeah. I'll finish venting, I promise. I'm not going to keep going. But the other complaint I have is if it creates an image for me and I tell it, hey, I just want one change. So I upload the image and say, look, just change this from green to blue. It creates a whole new image that doesn't even look like.
I know.
And obviously I understand copyright, but the stupid machine's the one that created the image. Surely it knows it created that image because there's embedded data in there that it knows it created the image.
That's getting better too. It's called consistency. Literally, it's consistency, and they call it consistency, but character consistency they're really touting that. Like that's the next big thing where you'll be able to literally have a whole book, written about characters, and throughout the whole book, the characters' features are going to be.
Yeah.
Which is, if you think about it, man, that's really impressive.
No, it is. It's just frustrating when it doesn't work.
Your little tiger had never existed until you pulled it out of the ether. Like that's the first time that tiger has ever seen the world, or the world's ever seen that tiger. It's really impressive,
No, it is. It is mind-blowing. At the same time, it's, when you see the errors that are made that you would think shouldn't even be there. That's what's frustrating.
Hey, so. and that's why we're screwed. And I think you and I had this conversation before. Maybe I had it with somebody else, but no, I did have it with somebody else. When we've got all this miraculous stuff happening and we can still find things wrong with it, right? Like my dad one day he got mad at me because I didn't read a text. Turns out he sent the text, but I didn't get it. It was in a group chat. And he was getting upset. I'm like, you're getting upset because one message didn't go with the other ones and travel at light speed, bouncing off satellites, going through fiber optic cables, and then finding these individual devices to pop up words and we get mad at that. You know what I mean? It's like
we've become a very spoiled society.
We've lost our wonderment, the child wonderment. Like,
yeah.
Wow, you know, sad. I'm stupid crazy over the AI stuff. But again, it will kill us.
Awesome. Well, I think I veered us off on enough of a tangent. Again, I think if, just to circle back, if anyone has any other suggestions or questions, or if you want to set up a training session, you know, just a one-on-one to go over anything that we covered today, just reach out to us. We're happy to do that. We're here to help. And I hope this webinar, other than my last 10 minutes of venting about AI, I hope you found it useful.
I found it useful. I think
good. As long as you were entertained, I'm happy, Joel.
I'm here. So everyone, next week, April 3rd, 1 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully I don't crash and burn, because I don't know how this thing's going to go. Again, we're using these tools that Ezra just got really mad at. So maybe I'll be cursing. I might declare
it's gonna be good
next week.
Oh man,
guys,
yeah.
There's my email address. If anybody wants one-on-one or anything like that, I can hook you up to the right people. And
yeah, thank you so much. Reach out just to our customer service chat, or email support@coreware.com. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for spending the afternoon with us. And we'll let you know when we have another Core Store. I don't know what we call the series, but we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we will. Thank you, everyone. Hey, Ezra, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
For showing up today.
Oh, absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.